delighted to share that we not only have colleagues from the Commission joining us in this conversation, but also kind of two of the winners from the 2020 competition, who you'll hear from in a second, and I'm very excited to say are joining us. So my name's Charlotte Macken. I work at Nesta Challenges, which is part of the foundation Nesta Challenges. We're all about designing and delivering challenge prizes, also known as inducement prizes, with partners, be they government, foundations, corporations, communities, or individuals. So that's what our reason and our purpose. And I'm really delighted to say that we have been part of the various consortiums delivering the European Social Innovation Competition since its launch. And that's why we get the privilege of facilitating this conversation today. So the purpose of the panel is really to, as I was saying earlier, explore the role of social innovation as that powerful tool towards sustainability. As I mentioned, we'll be focusing on fashion, that theme of the 2020 competition. And we're really lucky to be joined by ResortTech and Why We Craft, who you'll be hearing from more in a second. And really what we're aiming for today is to discuss kind of what support needs for social innovation and what more can be done and what is happening. So before I introduce our panel more fully and kind of explain what will be the structure of this session, I want to take a moment to recognise the heritage of the competition. It was founded almost 10 years ago in memory of Diego Vasconcelos, who was a real pioneer and leader and a kind of inspiration when it came to leading about social innovation in Europe and had a real passion. Unfortunately, he did pass away far too young, and this competition was really founded in his memory to keep that passion and ambition going and really think about how we can inspire and support social entrepreneurs, social innovators across the continent to develop ideas that help change society. You'll hear more from Alessia in a second during her introductory remarks on the nature of the competition. And hopefully you'll hear from our innovators a little bit of the experience of what the competition was like. So I've already started to mention, we've got a really exciting panel today, and I'm also delighted that it's so many women, which is not something we often see, so it's very great. I'm very excited about that personally. So as I mentioned, Alessia di Gregorio is joining us from the Commission, where she's Deputy Head of Unit at DG Grow G2 Proximity, Social Economy and Creative Industries. That is quite a mouthful, but hopefully I got it all. As I mentioned, Charlotte Macken, I'm joining from Nesta Challenges. We've got Moisin, who's one of the co-founders of Why We Craft, and Rawaa Ammar, who's the impact lead for ResortTech. So I'll hand over to Alessia in a second. She'll give us our introductory remarks. Then we'll move into kind of hearing from our innovators, a kind of panel discussion and opportunity for Q&A. Before I kind of get things kicked off and handed over to Alessia, I do need to mention some housekeeping, as is always the case. You might be able to see that this session is being recorded, so just please be aware of that, and that recording does sit with the conference organisers. If you have any trouble with your audio and video, I hope that you can all hear me clearly. I have my fingers crossed. There are some recommendations from the organisers. Check that you're using Chrome, see if you can do anything to improve that Wi-Fi reception, or maybe even plug in to kind of the internet mainline, and try reducing your tabs. That's something I was definitely guilty of. I had a lot of tabs open. It does help to shut them down. If that doesn't work, clear your cache. And apparently headphones will help with clearer sound. So I hope that mine are doing the job. As I mentioned, last bit of housekeeping is really, please ask questions, make comments. We'd love to hear from you. For that, please do use the blue ribbon chat that you can see is on your screen. We've kind of already had some hellos, so kind of thank you for joining us again. As we go through, please feel free to ask questions. My colleague Liliana is going to be managing that and going to be kind of helping us keep track and hopefully getting to all your questions. So with that, Alessia, can I please hand over to you for our introductory remarks?
Thank you, Charlotte, and good morning, everybody. In particular, I welcome my C2021 participants, so this is a very good number, very, very happy to see that. And I'm very happy to be here today to open the workshop on transforming fashion through social innovation, and so to contribute to the European Social Economy Summit. Well, Actually, the current crisis is unlike any other. It has proven to be a major accelerator of trends in the transformation of our society, economies, and industry. More than ever, we know how important it is today to be resilient and successfully lead the green and digital transitions. This crisis has also proved us how central solidarity is to the European project. And in this context, I think social innovation will play a crucial role during the recovery as a tool to support the transformation of our economy while putting people first. Social innovation is indeed a powerful tool to create social, environmental, and economic value at once. And the European Social Innovation Competition is one of our main tools to spark indeed social innovation ideas and to support them to become successful and impactful businesses. There is increasing momentum today across the board to speed up the transition and so use the investment linked to the recovery to support the green and digital transformation of our industries and economy. And we need indeed to use this opportunity offered by the recovery to invest more in the transition of our industry. This brings me back to the value of today's discussion, because to meet the challenges ahead of us, we need to spark new ideas across Europe and support them to grow and become sustainable, viable businesses. We need to promote the businesses that put social innovators first. This is the objective of our European Social Innovation Competition, which is now in its 9th edition. Let me focus now on the last year edition under the theme of reimagining fashion. This is one example of an industry sector where Europe is a world leader and where there is a great potential for sectoral transformation. The competition was looking for ideas to improve the environmental and social impact of the European fashion market through the development of new products, services, processes, innovative business models. And more concretely, the innovations aimed to reduce the overall environmental footprint and improve the societal impact of the fashion market, help make it more accessible and fairer, and aspire to change behaviors in a sustainable way. Solutions also aimed at delivering impact, pursuing sustainability, and being scalable or replicable post-competition at local, national, and European levels. So, 350,000 euro prizes were awarded by the European Commission for the best social innovative projects designed to change the ways we produce, buy, use, recycle fashion, moving towards increased global sustainability and changing consumers' behavior. Among the 760 applications we received last year, the 30 most promising ones in terms of innovation, sustainability, impact, scalability were selected. 30 teams were offered a variety of tools to further refine their idea so that it becomes a viable, sustainable, and impactful business. Importantly, they also took part in the Social Innovation Academy, hosted digitally for the first time last year. The Academy offered participants a variety of learning opportunity, as well the opportunity to network and meet other entrepreneurs and hear and share from their experiences. The support package also included one-on-one coaching, access to a pool of experts, access to dedicated webinars, and support in building the project's visibility. The 10 best ideas were so selected to become the finalists, and among them we got the 3 winners. Today, we will have the great pleasure to hear from two of the winners of the last year edition. As Charlotte said, Why We Craft and Resurtex are attending today's session. And I really believe that their experience with the European Social Innovation Competition will be inspiring for the participants, not only of this current edition, but also for the future editions, and for all of those who see social innovation as a new way of doing business, finding innovative solutions, and meeting social needs in a better way. In this regard, I would like to invite you to contribute with your ideas on possible themes for the next year competition. And so you can do that today via our chat. This will be very helpful, useful, and I really thank you in advance. Now it is my pleasure to leave the floor to Monica and Rawaa, who are the two winning projects of last year. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Alessia. I will just open up the slides. If people could give me I can see the slides in the chat, that would be very helpful. There's always, oh, no, it's gone. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Monica, can I invite you up to take over the slide deck and to tell us more about Why We Craft?
Absolutely, Charlotte. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's an honor to be here today. My name is Monica Boța Moisin. I am one of the co-founders of Why We Craft, and by profession, I am a lawyer. So maybe it's interesting for the audience to see that social innovators can come from very different professional fields, and there's room for everyone. Why We Craft has been or is a product of the European Union Social Innovation Competition, because when we applied at idea stage, and everything that we've been building in the project so far has been in close collaboration with the mentors and with the ecosystem that the European Union Social Innovation Competition has facilitated for us. At Why We Craft, we contribute to reimagining fashion by rewiring the emotional connection between people and garments and reviving the textile crafts of Europe. Our vision at Why We Craft is craftsmanship for a green and equitable future. We want to create systemic change through knowledge exchange between artisans and fashion designers. We imagined, or our contribution from a social innovation perspective, is that we looked at a category of knowledge holders that are not fully integrated in the contemporary fashion supply chains, and those are traditional artisans who still work today with sustainable techniques that can add a lot of value to the way we produce and consume fashion today. So what we do at Why We Craft is we merge the worlds of fashion and craft to integrate sustainable, traditional textile manufacturing techniques in contemporary supply chains. We started a pilot in Romania as a result of winning or being one of the winners of last year's competition. And we are now implementing the first stages of our development plan. So in Romania, at the moment, we focus on embroidery and handcrafted, hand-woven fabrics. By this, we integrate a new concept, a fairly new concept in the landscape of sustainable fashion, and that is cultural sustainability. We understand cultural sustainability and define it as acknowledging the sustainability that is culturally embedded within traditional craftsmanship by supporting the knowledge transfer to future generations. Why We Craft is meant to be a holistic, a fully integrated platform An interesting aspect that we take into consideration is the legal framework in which artisans and designers work. From a legal perspective, traditional craftsmanship has, for the past centuries, been seen as pertaining to the public domain. And this led to many cases of cultural appropriation or artisans being unfairly treated in the fashion industry. We also tackled this problem through the Why We Craft platform and concept. Why We Craft is designed to become a textile hub for Europe, and our hope is that from Romania we will move on to onboarding artisans from everywhere across Europe into the Why We Craft family. I leave you here with little visual cue of how we are implementing the first stage of the project at the moment. Here we are in a place called Salva in Bistrița County in Romania, working with one of the most reputed artisans and creators in Romania, who is a collaborator of Why We Craft and part of the Why We Craft team. Here we focus on capacity building and transferring knowledge from the fashion industry and how it works to the craft space, so that we can frame the co-design experiences that we want to offer to all participants who engage with Why We Craft. If you're interested to know how the project develops and join the Why We Craft community, whether you are an artisan, designer, or interested in acquiring knowledge on cultural sustainability in fashion, you are always welcome. Thank you very much for having us here today. I look forward to your questions in the Q&A part of the session. Thank you.
Thanks, Monica. And you didn't mention to everyone that beautiful shirt you're wearing. Have you asked them?
This beautiful shirt, if I'm allowed to mention, and I would also want to show it, it is made by one of our collaborators from Bihor County, Romania. Her name is Katalin Kovac, and she has hand woven this entire amazing piece. This is the kind of emotion that we want to bring to the fashion industry, and this is the kind of connection that we want to see in fashion. These elements and pieces of fabric are timeless. They convey not just they are not just clothing. They convey the heart, the spirit of the people who made them for us. So we are so proud to be able and honored to be able to present these elements to you, these garments to you as well. Thank you, Charlotte, for giving us the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Monica. So Rawaa is now going to pick up the conversation. Rawaa, if you want to kind of turn on your video, fantastic, we can see you. I will stop sharing these slides and we will try and make sure that you're going to try and share your screen. So I think we're working. Rawaa, you're on mute. Rawaa, you're on mute. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
We can indeed. Take it away.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you very much. So hello, everybody. My name is Rawaa Ammar, and I'm the impact lead at Resultix. In Resultix, we just have raised 960,000 euros for a globally patent solution, and we are currently validating it with 25 international brands. Why this is important? Because Resultix will allow garment recycling at a big scale, high quality, and low cost. This is very vital because currently, every second, one full truck of garbage, of textile waste, is discarded globally. This is translated into 34 million tons of textile waste every year at a global scale. And what is even more shocking is that less than 1% of those textile wastes of all the garments are recycled in a closed loop, meaning that textile to textile closed loop recycling translated into $500 billion worth of material wasted every year globally. So this is not only a huge impact on the environment, but also on the finance. And it's clearly from these figures that the fashion industry is not sustainable and it would require a future-proof solutions. Resortex acknowledge the fact that this is very, very complex process and it's challenging indeed because garments are difficult to recycle because we literally need to remove buttons, zippers, labels, and it's labor intense to remove them from any garment before even thinking of recycling. Resortex will allow the recycling by simply dismantle the garments 5 times faster by changing the sewing thread. And by simply changing the sewing thread, we can, that melts at different temperatures, 150, 170, and 200 degrees. And this thread, as you can see in the video, will disappear by simply applying heat. And the beauty of it that there will not require any change in the design nor the manufacturing. And furthermore, the garments will be able to be washed, dried, and even ironed if needed. That Resortex will allow the garments to be part of a circular ecosystem in such a way that the garment makers can simply switch the bobbin of the sewing thread and the brands can market their products that can be recycled. They can enhance the situation where they have the implications of their unsold inventory and reach the sustainability targets. On the other hand, sorters will be able to dismantle the garments using Resortex dismantle oven, by which 1,400 garments can be dismantled each hour and provide the real fabric with high-end quality to partners in recycling sector that will, in their role, recycle the fabric again into yarns and use them in a new garment. In Resortex, currently, we are measuring the impact by conducting a life cycle assessment to validate the solution we are providing and comparing what we have currently in terms of disassembly technology and recycling technology to see exactly what is the impact of those solutions on the environment from not only CO2 emission, but also water use, land use, the emission of hazardous chemicals and heavy metals. And just I'm giving you a snapshot of a current study we are conducting of different disassembly, coupling different disassembly and recycling techniques. And we can found that the efficient disassembly coupled with proper recycling will unlock more than 50% of CO2 emissions per each recycled garment as a closed loop. Resortex team is an award-winning team and was supported by International Advisory Board. The team is a combination of senior expertise in youthful energy, of engineers, design, marketing, finance, and environmental science. I hereby invite you to follow our news and join us in our mission on the social media and our website. And we're more than excited to answer your questions in the Q&A. I give it back to you, Charlotte.
Like we said, if you have any questions, please do put them in the chat. I'd like to invite Alessia and Monica back onto the screen. Cameras on, but muted, please, because we're going to have our bit of a panel discussion before opening up for audience Q&A. Just a reminder, like I said, please pop your questions in the blue ribbon chat. We will be endeavouring to get to as many as possible. Monica, I'd like to start off with a question for you, but I think it's also really a question for Rawaa as well. The theme of the 2020 competition was reimagining fashion. Reimagining, that's a big, big topic. Like, kind of, what was it that, what did that topic mean to you?
Thank you, Charlotte. For us, when we saw the opportunity to reimagine the fashion system, because of the work that we do with our mother organization, the Cultural Intellectual Property Rights Initiative, the advocacy that we do for the recognition of the rights of custodians and transmitters of traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expressions, and focus on indigenous knowledge systems. It was an opportunity to also give represent the interests and the rights of this part of the world in the fashion system, and draw attention to the fact that there's so much valuable knowledge that is embedded in cultural practices. Zero pattern making, for example, is one of the principles that is an age-old principle. We identify it in the traditional garments that were worn for centuries. It's something that can be integrated in the way we create and produce fashion today by partnering with communities where this knowledge is still alive. Not everyone on the planet has the same access to resources, to knowledge, and we cannot leave anyone behind. So our main focus was a fully inclusive fashion system that looks at the source of where everything started. And everything started with textile production. There was no fashion industry before the hand-woven fabric. Our approach was a bit more conceptual, at parts a little bit maybe philosophical, but we want to also touch upon this element of inclusiveness of all members of society in the discussion and at the table, a decision-making table in fashion.
Thank you. Rawaa, what about for your team? What did the theme of the competition mean to you?
Well, the theme of the competition is the heart of Resortix vision and mission, because as we saw that the fashion industry is not sustainable, is not future-proof, we have a lot of gaps at the supply chain, manufacturing, branding, and recycling. So it's clear that the solution forward to reach a climate where we can live and our kids and grandkids can live in a sustainable environment, it's clear that we need to do a shift in the fashion industry. We need to design for disassembly, we need to design for environment, and allowing recycling will allow us to first stop the wastes, second, stop going to offshore sites to source new materials, allow those lands in the offshore sites to be used for more important things of agricultural and raising food, reduce the water usage, reduce the land usage, make a change in the land management, as well as water and healthy, safe water for everybody that is right. So our project is directly impacting the textile industry, but indirectly impacting socially everybody involved in terms of the offshore communities, as well as bringing back, as Monica rightfully said, all these talents to Europe and all these talents about production and manufacturing to European continent.
So much exciting stuff.
If I could add something, Charlotte,
yes,
because I think what is amazing about social innovation and the projects that we do, just imagine handcrafted garment with the Resortex stitches. So this is where innovation and traditional knowledge can come together in complementarity, is technology and human involvement, the knowledge of the past with the knowledge of the future. So to reimagine fashion, we need to think of these synergies. And what is amazing about the triplet of winners at last year's competition is that we come to approach the reimagining the fashion system and holistic sustainability in the fashion system from very different perspectives, but we can act as one, and we can integrate each other's knowledge in the solutions that are developed. So I am really, really proud to be here next to Resortex, a project that has so much impact and has been able to scale in a way that we might only be able to scale in the hearts of the people, but it's still important that we are in the same ecosystem and we support each other.
I cannot agree more, Monica. Thank you so much.
I love that idea of kind of the cumulative building and actually kind of that we don't want to treat kind of our innovations, our innovative approaches as individuals. It's actually how they can interlock and build together. Alessia, it feels like a really great moment to bring in the perspective of the Commission. Kind of, we feel that ambition from innovators, but from the Commission's kind of level where you're seeing kind of across Europe, what are some of the key challenges facing social innovators in Europe today?
So, first of all, I would like to stress again that social innovation is really an opportunity for us that can be mainstreamed in many policy areas. And this is precisely what we do in the Commission. And also it can embrace an inclusive economic approach through a large number of business sectors. And this is really very important considering the particular moment that we are living under the recovery phase. Social innovation contributes to developing solutions, and we really believe in that. Solutions which are solid and effective because they are co-designed with the beneficiaries. And another point which is very important is that the social innovation is supported by different actors among the civil society, in the public sector, and especially among companies of all sizes. Well, I want to open a little part on textile and clothing sector in particular, because this is precisely the topic of today. We discussed on that. And as you may know, the European Commission announced the adoption of a strategy on textile, which was announced on both in the context of the Circular Economy Action Plan, but also in the context of our updated industrial strategy, which was adopted very, very recently on 5th of May. And I'm just saying that because I really think that there is a strong link between this and the social innovation concept in general. So basically what here in the Commission we are doing in the context of the strategy that we want to prepare. Let me say, for your information, we are working on it. A roadmap defining the main elements and priorities was published in January 2021 on Have You Say portal. And following the consultation on this roadmap, the Commission launched a second public consultation with a questionnaire focusing on more in-depth aspects which the strategy could tackle. So this consultation, if I remember well, will be closed on 4th August this year. And I invite all of you to participate because this is very, very important for us. And your idea matters for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Alessia. And I can see that our colleagues have popped the link to that in the chat.
Thank you.
Please do go and kind of have a look and also share with your networks as well. All too often, kind of these opportunities to input sort of don't spread through. So if you could share that, if you're here, you clearly got an interest in social innovation and sustainable fashion. So please do share that with your networks. We would be very, very much appreciative. We heard a bit there from Alessia about kind of how the Commission is thinking about the support and the role for social innovators. And I think what's really interesting, having Rawaa, yourself and Monica here, is that you've been on the other side of that support. And I would just be really curious to know kind of what, having gone through the European Social Innovation Competition and now kind of being further along in your journey, what advice do you have to the Commission, to kind of other governments, other bodies, about how to support kind of social innovation that's really pushing for greater sustainability in fashion? Rawaa, would you like to kick us off?
Yes, thank you, Charlotte. I think since the problem is huge, we need a huge action to be able to do an impact. And in order for us to do an impact, we need to enforce regulations and law to adopt circularity in everything we do, specifically in textile, since the textile industry alone is responsible for 5% of the global emissions. So it's the fourth most polluting sector. And therefore, regulations need to be adopted for the supply chain, for the brands to hold their responsibility at their end, as well as for the end consumer, for each and every one of us to support buying recyclable content and allow recyclability of everything in textile. I'm thrilled to see that the Commission started that on 5th of May. We are celebrating that in Resultex, and every other company would need that support from the Commission to arrive to 2030 with zero garbage, zero waste in Europe in textile industry. So our mission personally and Resultex is to arrive to Europe by 2030 that every single garment made is ready to be recycled.
From our perspective, as Alessia was also saying, social innovation is such a broad concept, and there is room for so many different ideas. What we feel, especially when it comes to, particularly to our approach, is that at the moment, social innovation is in part associated by the masses only with certain concepts. And it's important to talk about circular economy. It's important to talk about environmental sustainability, but we also need to think holistically and give more examples to the broader audiences. The fact that new approaches or perspectives that are not so common are also part of the social innovation spectrum. This is something that could be an interesting angle to be also communicated. We also talk about more than the triple bottom line, and we talk about culture as being an important aspect of sustainable development and this concept of cultural sustainability, because it comes with a lot of practices that are environmentally sustainable, that engage communities and thus contributing to community well-being, and that are therefore profitable for the society at large. So I think what we would say is to focus on communicating to the public and to create kind of maybe dedicated funding and support lines to more niched concepts that fall under the large concept of a global circular economy.
Okay, can I just add the last point clearly from what we said until now, and also was very clear to us in the context of last year competition, the sector of fashion in Europe in particular is lively and sensitive about societal challenges. But the point that I want to make now is that also we saw in parallel, unfortunately, that this sector, let's say, and even broader, the textile sector, was a very, very hard hit. In particular, this is when we talk about the textile ecosystem, including, of course, the fashion sector. And I mean, we made analysis, we checked the needs and the difficulties that the sectors encountered, that this exercise has been done in the context of the updated industrial strategy. And I can give you, for example, some figures today, because we saw that in 2020, textile and clothing, footwear and leather goods retail sales decreased by close to 25% EU turnover, and the EU turnover for textiles decreased by 9.3%, and the decline in the clothing industry was about 17.7%. So these are figures which can clearly tell us what is the situation of the sector, which I said, as I said before, this is for sure a lively and sensitive societal sector, but we need to do more.
Thanks, Alessia. It's always a good sign when panelists start spontaneously responding. I want to just take a moment to kind of acknowledge some of the questions we're getting in the chat. Again, if you have any questions, we've kind of been getting some through, please do pop them in the blue chat. Monica, this is one to kick off from you, Marie-Louise. She has a really great question around craftsmanship. So craftsmanship is often labour intensive, which makes items expensive. How do you, as a social innovation, social entrepreneur, create a business case?
That's an excellent case. It's and it's also the main challenge, one of the main challenges that we had, how to valorize the knowledge, skill, and to communicate the value of handcrafted garments to consumers. Now, when you calculate the price of one garment or what it would cost a normal household to buy clothing from conventional stores today, as opposed to buying a less number of pieces, but of a higher quality and made by an artisan, the investment is not differing much. What is differing is the footprint, the environmental footprint, and the impact on the well-being of other people as well. So we realized that an important part of the services that we create are education. We create educational services to help people to change their consumption, their consumption patterns, and to become impact investors in a field. So our business case has a few different ramifications. We are working cross-sectorially. We are not creating garments that are up for sale. So we are not a fashion company in that sense. We are creating enabling services. And we are a platform where both artisans, consumers, and designers can learn how to create fashion that lasts for decades and that can be transmitted from generation to generation. A lot of the pieces that I personally have in my wardrobe are inherited from my grandmother and my great-grandmother, because in Romania we were one of the countries in Europe that was not so heavily industrialized, and I got in my lifetime to see how handwoven fabrics are made and how my grandmother still put together the traditional outfits, which are I can integrate today in my wardrobe. So my buying is maybe I'm not one of those numbers that can be easily calculated in the how does a European consumer purchase clothing, because I make very little purchases, but I invest in elements that last for generations.
Thanks, Monica. Our audience member, I believe it was Marie-Louise, I beg your pardon. I hope that answered your question. If you have any follow-up, please do pop it in the chat. And I actually have a follow-up inspired by your answer there, Monica. You kind of talked about actually how you're kind of a service provider. You're not actually selling the clothes yourself, which I think is something that might surprise people a little. And I would just love to hear how that sort of business case evolved. We know that that's something often social entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in general, their concept, their business idea, it evolves through time. And I would just love to hear a little bit of that journey for you and how your kind of business case, your kind of idea evolved, and perhaps the influence of the European Social Innovation Commission.
Thank you, Charlotte. So our project idea started from the mother organization, the Cultural Intellectual Property Rights Initiative, and that is a mediation platform and an advocacy platform that advocates for the rights of artisans, in short. So we started from a conceptual service, and we thought how, in order to reach a society where the knowledge of artisans is valued, we need to give people something tangible. The tangible that we thought we could give people was inspired by our work in India. We have been doing a lot of field work and research in India in the past 2 years, and spent time in artisan communities talking about the legal protection of traditional cultural expressions, as traditional textiles are referred to in a legal terminology. So interacting with artisan communities there, we realized how amazing this interaction is and how much it gives you, not only for us as non-designers, non-fashion designers, not having a direct connection with the fashion industry, and what it gives to designers as well. Many designers were coming to India before the pandemic to spend time in these communities, to try to work together with these communities, or just find inspiration. And we thought this is something that is missing in Europe, because in Europe, very few artisans have direct contact with designers, if any. It's a very limited amount of those. And if they have, the artisans are in the sector of luxury, so métier d'art, we talk about luxury craftsmanship, but there's also a sector of craftspeople that are kind of left outside both groups. And artisans in Romania, for example, are one of those groups, and there's a lot around the Balkan countries, but not only. So there are artisans everywhere across Europe, and there's a lot of handcrafted textiles and knowledge that Europe can contribute with at a global level and become a hub for creating our own textiles with our own hands. So we evolved from a legal framework, which is kind of the policy direction that we have in mind, and we focus on that, creating such policy in Europe and contributing to the development of such a policy in Europe, to kind of counteract the presumption that traditional textiles are part of the public domain, and tackle the lack of interest for young generations to be part of this network, because if this kind of supporting the transmission of knowledge across generation is not supported through a legal framework, it will disappear. We will lose this knowledge. They are not motivated. The IP system promotes, innovation, and they are motivated to create because they have copyrights. We have trademarks. We have industrial design protection. But when you are an artisan, you have no protection. So this knowledge is at the risk of being lost. So we wanted to bring the value back in, and we said co-design experiences will be the first step, immersing youth and not only young designers, any kind of designers, in the world of the artisans, having them meet in their studios, in their homes, co-create. And from there, through the competition, we realized that we can do so much more. So we started with a co-design experience, and through the competition, we realized that this can be a European supported platform that enables craftsmanship at a European level. So we worked on developing the tech behind and have a fully integrated service platform that offers legal support to artisans who cannot afford it, for example, that offers legal support to frame the collaboration so that both intellectual property rights and cultural intellectual property rights, is how we call the rights of the artisans, would be fairly and equitably distributed. A platform where there is access to communication and PR services as well, so that that part of the artisans who have no access to these services can also have access, and that their work is valued as the work in fashion is valued. We have all the fashion magazines, but they don't feature artisans. We want the fashion magazines to feature artisans as well and their work.
Thanks, Monica. I always love talking to the innovators who come through our competitions, like the one we're lucky enough to work on with the Commission, European Social Innovation Competition, because it's that passion and it's that looking at the world through a different lens. Rawaa, I want to check, are you back with us? Hi, excellent. We lost you for a second, but you're back, and that's the most important thing. Monica was just kind enough to tell us a bit about the Why We Craft journey, how the idea, the business model evolved. I'd love to hear the resource tech, kind of how your approach and your model evolved, and maybe a little bit about the impact of the European Social Innovation Competition on that journey.
Yes, absolutely. So Resultix is an impact-driven company. The project is driven by creating an impact, by resolving a problem. But the context that the social innovation competition make us work with and look into it is not only the environmental aspect of the project, because it's the motivator for us, we were aware of it, we are measuring it, but also the social impact and how important it is to raise awareness around it. And now we are working, taking the matters in our hand to raise awareness for other companies, collaboration network, thanks to the framework as well for the European Commission and the competition itself, as well as with building a network, because we are kind of the missing link in this ecosystem of textile industry. So we're working with the supply chain, we're working with brands, we're working with sorters and recyclers, and we are trying to develop this ecosystem, this holistic ecosystem, to a final full solution and not half of a solution, and working with the end customer through our communication channels to raise awareness to the problem, because simply people don't know that there is a problem in the textile industry. And that's one of the things that the social innovation competition highlights, and we took it now into our business model and our agendas. That's what we need to do, and that's what kind of works, what kind of milestones we need to implement in our business model to achieve concerning social impact, not only environmental impact.
Thanks, Rawaa. I think one of the points that you just raised there is so important, about people just not being aware, and actually how we approach a problem, and the fact that kind of through the competition, you kept that environmental focus, but also recognized the other aspects and the other approaches you needed to take. Just to remind people, Alessia was very generous in saying, if anyone has any suggestions around the theme for the future competitions, share them. We'd love to hear them. Just as kind of a member of the consortium who gets the honor of delivering the competition, we always are looking for a theme each year. It does change every year, and there are kind of future iterations. So please do follow the European Social Innovation Competition accounts, so that you can keep up to date and find out what the next theme will be. Currently, our competition is focused on skills, but really when we're looking at a theme, we're thinking about a big topic like reimagining fashion, something where there's an urgent problem that many people could approach in many different ways. It should be relevant across Europe, and obviously also the Horizon Europe countries. I always said Horizon 2020 there, but that was the past. Also those countries, and it should be open to kind of early stage ideas. So we're really thinking about kind of something as expansive as possible. So if you have ideas, please do let us know. Kind of as we frame that around, as I give that framing around the theme, Alessia, why is it important from the Commission's perspective to run the competition and continue to do so? We're coming up to the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah, indeed. So I just want to refer to the competition of last year. Our aim was to look for ideas to improve environmental and social impact of the European fashion market. And what we saw, and this is a very important element, is that the fashion sector has been very responsive to this call. We got indeed very interesting ideas and experiences from many social innovators. Of course, this morning we have two of them, which are very, very well representative of the sector. Then this year, for the 2021, we launched another competition, as you said, Charlotte, on the theme of skills, which is another crucial theme. And we are preparing for next year competition. So for the moment, there is no clear idea about what the topic could be and actually will be. That's why we are putting together ideas as much as possible. And just to conclude, this is, precisely the reason why we really think that this competition is important. Not for the Commission, but first of all for you, because this is a promising and instrumental to spark social innovation ideas, and this is what we want to do and to achieve through the competition, and to support these ideas to become successful and impactful businesses. Thank you.
Thanks, Alessia. I've noticed we are almost out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that you've had some inspiration, that you've kind of thought a little bit differently about the kind of topic of reimagining fashion, and kind of got some insights into two amazing projects. If you would like to know more about why we craft and resource text, we are actually running another workshop. It is starting at 11:30 Central European Time, and the name is Framing Problems to Inspire Change Makers. We're delivering that as Nesta Challenges and with our consortium partners, Ashoka Spain. So we'd love for you to come along. And I think I'd just like to close out this session by giving first Monica, then Rawaa, the opportunity to just let people know how to get in contact with you if they would like to kind of either collaborate or hear more about your journey. And then also perhaps one or two things that you're actively looking for, whether it's partnership, networks, etc. But just to close us out, Monica, would you like to go first?
Absolutely. I'll be happy to share the two websites of our organizations in the chat, so it will be easier for people to find us. And there's a lot of contact information everywhere there because we want to be easily reachable. You can also find us on Instagram at cultural intellectual property or y.we.craft. In case you're more active on Instagram. What we are looking for is first to enlarge our community of believers. We call ourselves believers in a vision of craftsmanship for a green and equitable future. And the first invitation is to join the community. From there, with the force of the community, we can do many, many things together. But to change mindsets, we have to become a critical mass that inspires others to follow and lead by example. Secondly, and this is something that we all struggle here in the sector, is the financial support. So we can implement the ideas that the good ideas, we think good ideas that we have, and to be able to enable the stakeholders of our system at Why We Craft. So we are open for any suggestions of or directions in which we could either apply for funding, build collaborations to apply for funding, or philanthropic supporters who want to support craftsmanship at a European level. There are many ways to get involved, and we welcome anyone who wants to reach out to us.
Thank you, Monica. Rawaa, over to you.
Thank you. We are driven by impact, and we want to scale up to make the most of it. And to do that, we need each and every single collaboration with brands, with recyclers, as well as the support of the Commission and legislations. And we would love to be part of those discussions at the level of European Commission for the roadmap and what we can provide, since we are doing life cycle assessments for the solutions and the current solutions out there, because we know that eco-label is not enough. We need to support it with data. We need to know exactly what we are doing is driving an impact. And you can follow us on the website, Resultex website. You can follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram by simply following Resultex. We'll be thrilled to hear your suggestions and collaborating with you in different venues.
Well, I can't imagine a better way to finish this conversation than with those offers and calls for collaboration. I think that's exactly what conferences like these should be all about. So thank you, Monica, thank you, Rawaa, and thank you, Alessia, for kind of those contributions, for kind of giving us some insights into your project and also the Commission's kind of views and priorities. Thank you also to our colleagues and friends who've been working behind the scenes, Liliana helping us to kind of stay on track, and also a couple of colleagues who are hidden behind the veil of digital platform, but we're ready and waiting in case we had any dropouts. So thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed this conversation, and do get in touch with our innovators, and don't forget that call for input and collaboration that Alessia made in terms of the consultation. Thank you so much, everyone. We hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.